What's good, beautiful people? This is Ronnie. This is Waffle Talk. Welcome to my show, the show where we talk about men's issues, shedding some light on some things that you otherwise probably would not hear or even talk about. On a couple announcements, real quick, as we move forward. If you go to Google, not Google, if you go to YouTube and you search for Waffle Talk, you're going to come up with a lot of different things. I actually added a little bit. Now you look up Waffle Talk Ronnie. I should come up number one, make it a little easier on everybody to find me, to find the content, and to see some things that you might like, may not like, but to show love and support. Excuse me. Today, you may have read the description already. I wanted to talk about uh, how can I put this? Intimate partner violence. All right. We have an understanding that women are more susceptible to intimate partner violence, definitely by the numbers. 1 in every 3 women surveyed by the CDC has experienced intimate partner violence. 1 in every 3 women has experienced intimate partner violence. And of course, we hear stories all the time, women who are killed, beat up by their ex-boyfriends, boyfriends, whatever the case may be. Of course, you heard the story of, I forget the guy's name, the lineman in Seattle who beat his girlfriend so bad that he thought he killed her and then kind of just laughed about it. But oftentimes, what we don't discuss is the intimate partner violence that men experience. And actually, if we do discuss it, it's laughed about, it's mocked, often, and we don't really give it much attention. But one thing I've learned over these last few years in my life and in dating, I've been single. I mean, I have never been married. And so um, I've never been married. And so I definitely have experienced some interesting things along the way. And actually, I just wanted to make sure the audio works. I've experienced some interesting things along the way. And one of those things actually has been intimate partner violence. Now, to talk about intimate partner violence, I'm sorry. Talk about intimate partner violence when it comes to men. 1 in every 3 women experience intimate partner violence. 1 in every 4 men experience intimate partner violence. And that's just one more person out of the group. But we don't talk about this. We don't talk about men and their intimate partner violence. We don't talk about what men go through, and very little attention is given to it. So today, I wanted to discuss that and show some. I wanted to show some examples of the attitudes towards intimate partner violence when it comes to men and when it comes to women. Some things may not be a surprise to you. Other things may be a surprise to you. Some things were definitely a surprise to me. So where did this thought idea come from of intimate partner violence? Well, yesterday, I was on Facebook, as I normally am, stirring up some shit. And I ran across a post of a woman that you might know and one of her exes, one of her baby daddies. Let me see. I'm going to share my screen here so you can see what I'm talking about. All right. So here's the screen here. This is, of course, Erykah Badu, who many of us are familiar with. If you are not, I might have to take your black card for it. But this is Erykah Badu. She is beautiful. She is lovely. And apparently that monkey got some secret magic that makes dudes change their lives. But it also might come with some trouble, apparently. I don't know the exact context of this, but the post had read, it's a screenshot from Instagram. And when I went to go look for it, Jay Electronica's Instagram is private. I don't really care about Jay Electronica like that, so I didn't really care to follow him. So whether this post is real or edited, I'm not quite sure, but that's not exactly the point I'm trying to get to. But the post says here from Jay Electronica to Erykah Badu, you can see she liked it. This is the same day that she cut me in my ribs with a butcher knife, and I had to get 16 stitches. And as you can see at the bottom here, her response is laughter with 3 laughing emojis. And when I read this, I didn't find any of this funny. But when I went to Instagram, when I went to go click on the original post, let's see here. When I went to go click on the original post, there were some reactions to it that were very, very disturbing to me. So let's see. I'm going to pull this up here. This window. Let's zoom in a little bit. All right. I don't know who these people are, so I don't care about their public, whatever. You can add the friends you want on Instagram, on Facebook, all you want. You can also decline the friend request. My bad if you get there's 2 people on now, so my bad if you get some additions that you don't want. But when I went up into the likes and dislikes part of it, the reactions to it, people who reacted, you see there's an overwhelming number of people with positive reactions than the surprising ones. And that bothered me because there's nothing funny about that. 270 people reacted with a ha-ha. 23 people liked it. That's 293 people who reacted positively to it so far. 9 other people reacted positively, puts you at 302 people compared to 22 wows. Now, the wows, of course, can go either way. It was like either I didn't know Erykah was that crazy. I can't believe she did that. That's horrible. It can go either way. But So we have 300 positive reactions to this man getting stabbed, cut in his ribs, 16 stitches, life-threatening injury. I feel like any stabbing could be a life-threatening injury. I'm no tactical expert or whatever, but I feel like if you do anything that could cause me to bleed, I could potentially bleed out and die. That's scary as shit. I don't want to deal with that, right? So once I saw this post, it really made me wonder and think about the way that intimate partner violence is perceived when it comes to men. And I've been doing some research in these last few days. And one thing that I learned is that there are over 3,000 shelters and homes for families in the United States who for battered women and their families, mostly women. They mostly serve women. They don't usually keep men and women in the same place. If men are coming to those shelters, they're usually put in hotels and they pay for them. Then on the flip side of that, there are only 2 battered men's shelters in the United States, 2 dedicated shelters to battered men. And again, that's quite bothersome. When you say 1 in every 3 women experiences intimate partner violence, you have 3,000 shelters to face that. I mean, you have 3,000. I'm sorry, you have 3,000 shelters to carry that load. When 1 in every 4 men experiences intimate partner violence, you only have 2 in the United States. 1 is in some butt fuck city in Arkansas, and the other is in Dallas. And so the more I got to digging deeper into it, the more I began to kind of realize that the stigma that when it comes to domestic violence, we often look at it as women always being the victim and men, there's no way in hell he could be a victim. I want to go to the comments real quick because I saw a comment that really made me pause for a second. So did she actually do it? The post almost seems like a joke. That's really not my point or my problem. Like I said, Jay Electronica, I don't care about it, so I didn't care to go into the post to go look, right? My concern is the overwhelming reactions, positive reactions to a woman who is stabbing the guy. Joke or not, laughing at domestic violence is heinous. It's evil. If that was a woman who was showing a picture and saying, remember this day? This is the day that he beat me over the head with a golf club. And men started laughing at it. Those men would be demonized for it. But in this case, these women, it's perfectly okay to laugh at a man's pain. And this is one of those situations today where like I've done a lot of research, and the more I looked up some stuff, it really just frustrated the hell out of me because what I've learned, and this is kind of gonna, I mean, I'll tell you this now. What I've learned is that the attitudes towards men being abused is very, very, it's a joke to a lot of people. It's a joke. It's something that's laughed at. It's something that, oh, like he's a man. They figure it's impossible that a man can be abused. Now, even though there's the idea that you can, and people might believe it, the attitude towards it is ridiculous. It's ridiculous that the attitude towards it is ha 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 ha. I don't have a clip of this, but Sharon Osbourne was on, I don't know what show she's on, The Real, The View. They're all, whatever talk show it is with like 4 or 5 women talking shit about shit. I don't know. But there was a show where somebody mentioned a woman who cut off her husband's penis. Sharon Osbourne made a joke. The whole audience laughed at it. And that's perfectly acceptable. We can also go through so many movies and we can go through so many movies and so many other things where television shows in the media where a woman carrying out violent acts on a man is perfectly okay. So I just wanted to talk about that. So, how can we define intimate partner violence? Intimate partner violence. A lot of different things you can look for. Of course, there's the obvious, the hitting, pushing, violent acts towards your body, committing injury or any other harm or even death. Then there's also critique, name calling, shouting at people, taking away keys or money, uh, making threats to leave, threatening to hurt you, punishing or depriving your children when they're angry at you. So punishing your children, punishing you by punishing your children, threatening to kidnap the children if you leave, abuse, hurting your pets, abuse or hurting your pets, harassing you about affairs your spouse imagines you're having. That's definitely happened before. I know you haven't. I know you sleeping with somebody else. No, I'm not. Manipulating you with lies and contradictions, destroying furniture, punching holes in the wall, breaking appliances, of course, and of course, threatening you with weapons. Right? These are all things that, of course, I know for many women, it's a sensitive situation. I know plenty of women who've claimed to have been in abusive situations, and I know it could be triggering. But for men, we don't really think about these things as being. We don't think of ourselves as being in abusive situations. We often kind of just sweep it under the rug. We don't look at it like that. But today, I'm gonna try to give another perspective. Um, just to like go back on some attitudes of men and women and how these things are looked at. I'm gonna go back in time to a place where I was years and years and years ago. All right, when I was in high school, I started out at a private school and then I transferred to a public school, right? Just before I transferred to the public school, the black high school, I had a situation with a white woman that could have potentially been dangerous for me. Um, so one of my friends, we're in math class, right? All the black kids play basketball, and then there's this one white girl in the class who plays basketball, and all the black guys love her. Everybody I know, literally, I promise you, everybody I know, um, everybody. I'm sorry, I just saw looking at the chat here. Everybody I know was trying to get with this girl. She was white. She had some thick ass legs for a white girl. She had a little meat on her bones, blonde hair, blue eyes. She was from a city just outside of the rich suburb I went to school with called St. Well, let's just say it's a little bit of a white trash city compared to where I was, right? So she was kind of open to black guys. And every black guy in the school I knew, almost every black guy, tried to get on in some way. And except for me, I never really tried because she just wasn't my tea. I used to like white women, but like the older I got, the more I'm like, nah, it's some fine ass sisters here too. So she's we're in math class, me, her, and another one of my homeboys. We all play basketball on the team. We know each other, we practice sometimes together, whatever. So they're texting back and forth, and this is back in 2004, 2005, where the Pistons were actually really like winning championships and shit. They're in class and they're arguing, having a debate about something about the Pistons. I don't recall what it was. It's Pistons and Kobe Bryant, whatever. So he ends up texting me on the side and was like, yo, she's saying blah, blah, blah. And then I started texting him. He's relaying messages to me, whatever. And I'm like, oh, this is funny, right? So I see her after class and we're walking down the hallway and I say, hey, I said something about what she said to like, being annoying or whatever. But I had said something like, oh, hey, like, Kobe couldn't do this. And she just turned to me and she went, shut the fuck up, Ron. Like,
Bruh.
like what was that for, right? She was like, because you're an annoying little shit. So I was like, I'm a what? I was like, damn, what did I do to you? And then she pushed me. So automatically, my reaction to that was to push her back. Now, at the time, I had broken my right hand, and so I had a cast up to my elbow, and I definitely wasn't going to hit her back. So she pushed me. I pushed her back, and then what had happened after that was, hold on, let me fix my hat. Yeah. So what had happened after she pushed me, I pushed her back. She came at me, fist flying, feet flying, trying to kick me in my, my private areas, trying to hit me in my face. She's just swinging it. If you ever seen girls fight, you know that girls do not stop for a very long time. You can pull two girls away from a fight and they'll still be trying to get at each other 15 minutes later, right? So they take a long time to calm down. So we're in a hallway that's probably about maybe 20 feet wide, right? And so she's like trying to push me and kick me, punch me and kick me. And I got one hand. And I'm just using that hand to back her up. Like, yo, stop. Like, quit. I'm not about to swing on you, whatever. And so I keep pushing, I keep pushing, I keep pushing. And then eventually she gets up to the wall. And I was like, yo, this girl will not stop. Like, I need to do something to get her to stop. And so what I decided was the best course of action at that time was I reached up and I put my hand at her throat and I was like, stop it. And so as soon as I got my hand on her throat, somebody tackled me off of her. And so I went, so they pulled me off of her. I went to class, adrenaline all up. I don't know what the hell is about to happen. And I get called down to the office. When I walk down into the office, this girl is sitting in the office crying, bawling her eyes out of her blue eyes, white tears, just looking for some kind of sympathy, you can tell, right? So I sat down and the headmaster asked me what happened. I told him exactly what happened, front to back, the actual truth, where the conversation, how it all started, the conversation that happened, what I said to her, what the first interaction was, what my reaction was, and then what happened, with the push and kick and everything. So he looks at me and he goes, he says, I can deal with the punching. No, he said, I can deal with the pushing. I can deal with the punching. I can deal with the kicking. But what I cannot deal with is you putting your hands around her throat. Whoa, right? Because I'm sitting there like, but she came at me. I did what I could to defend myself, right? And so he's like highly upset at me. He's reaming me. Mind you, he's a white guy too. So at the time, I knew there was a fair amount of racism that was taking place here too. Um, so he's like talking to me and telling me how wrong I was and this, that, and the third. And she's still crying. I gotta apologize to this girl. And then at the end of the conversation, I get suspended for 3 days. They suspended me for 3 days. 3 days. I got suspended. Guess what she got? Nothing. She went back to school like nothing happened. Well, I won't say like nothing happened because my brother was at the school too, and he told me that that things were kind of tense up there. Like people wanted to fight me, come after me. Her boyfriend at the time was a black guy. He wanted to fight me for whatever happened, and it basically caused this like huge rift amongst like the black people and the white people of the school for a short time because you know while they did think that I shouldn't have put my hands on her, they kind of were like on my side and like, yo, it should have never got there in the first place, right? So long story short, I mean, after that, I transferred school. I was suspended for 3 days. Came back on a Tuesday. Transferred on a Wednesday. I was gone. Right. So everybody thought I got expelled. But I ended up just leaving because I wanted to be around more black people anyway. But what that situation taught me was that no matter if you are defending yourself against a woman, it is seen as inappropriate for you to put your hands on her. You will be in the wrong. And that often happens when people get when people are when the police are called in domestic violence situations. Even if a man comes outside with scars, bleeding, scratches on his face, and he's sitting there crying, wallowing, scared, trembling, like, the police will arrest him. They will put him out of the house, and they will do nothing with her. And that's real. This is not some anecdotal anything. This is not me, because I've never been in a situation like that before. I'm not a confrontational person. I don't care for physical violence. I don't care for violence really at any standpoint, unless it's on social media where I choose violence according to people. But I'm not a physical confrontation person. So I wouldn't be in that situation. But I've heard, read, and seen situations where the woman was the aggressor and the man was punished for it. I was on, actually this came up on social media too. Billy Sorrells is a comic who I am familiar with from what's that show? All Def Digital YouTube channel. And Billy Sorrells posted a video where his wife like took his phone and she's like throwing stuff at him, hitting him. He has a picture of him with blood and sweat and like tears coming out of his hair because he has like a perm or whatever. But he's like sweating. He's sweating and he's like scared and he's like showing pictures. He's like, "Stop, you trying to hurt me." He found out his wife put out a hit on him, which he joked about and said she was trying to pay for the hit in installments because she was paying the hitman like $300 a month or something like that to have him killed, right? And he was telling the police like, "Yo, my wife is trying to kill me." He showed like seven police reports for domestic violence. He has a wife, he has a kid with her, and the police were just like kind of laughing at him. They didn't do anything about it. And he's still steadily going back home, getting his ass whooped by his chick. And you could say to yourself, well, why doesn't he defend himself? But like I just said, if you defend yourself against a woman, you're in the wrong automatically. I was listening to a interview today on Dr. T. Hassan Johnson's channel, professor of Black Africana Studies at Fresno State in California. His channel is focused on Black male issues, and he was talking to a brother who was also a professor who was talking about his situation with his woman, where she would often bait him into reactions just so she can get the upper hand and like get him out, like her, so she can manipulate and have her get her control. He had said in one situation they had got to arguing and she slapped him. And she slapped him. His automatic knee-jerk reaction was to slap her back. Right? So rather than fall to the ground, "Oh my God, why'd you do that?" She laughed at him because in that moment she understood that she got him. And then after that, she came at him, attacked him. The police were called, and he was put out of his own home. He was put out into the streets. He can't come back he has to leave the house, has to go somewhere else. So he's essentially homeless because the police, of course, look at him as the aggressor. If she did something, then clearly it must have been something that he did to make her react that way. We often don't think about that there are women out there who it's like almost like their main goal is to agitate a guy, to get under skin, to exert some kind of control. See, what happens I noticed And I dated a woman like this once. She was actually pretty abusive. In a way, she one time we got a hotel room. First time we spent the night together, I was sick that night. I had a cold, and I fell asleep and I started snoring. And she reached over and like took a pillow, and I guess she missed my face, but she ended up punching me in my sleep. Told me to like, oh, you're snoring, and I kind of let it go. I was like 21. I didn't think much of it. Um, and then later down the road, like she started doing all these other things to be abusive, talking to me about her crushes on other guys, um, telling me that she was sitting on people's laps at parties and stuff. Like, that's what me and my friends do. We're just fun like that. We're cool. They were so free and all this other stuff. Um, she was, yeah, and that was an abusive situation too. But these things happen. Um, so she was one of those people who she was such a dominant personality that of course she needed a man who could be way more dominant than her. And I'm a pretty nice guy. I'm not like I'm an asshole sometimes, but I'm a nice dude. Like I'm generally pretty cool. But she needed a guy who was going to dominate her, and every guy that couldn't, she was going to push him to the edge to see how far she could go, as most women would do. So, um, later down the road, we ended up breaking up. She's kind of seeing some dude on the side, and that ended up being her boyfriend. Um, her boyfriend later, and then she drove him nuts, and they broke up. But there are women out there who they want a guy, and then they want to figure out if they can dominate him. They're going to test him. She's going to test you to make sure that you can put up with her. And if a woman says you have to be a strong man to put up with me, fellas, run. Don't stand there for that, because she's telling you, I'm going to give you some shit, so you need to be strong. I don't talk to women like that anymore. If I hear a woman say you got to be strong or I'm a little crazy, like, no, I'm not putting up with it anymore. Because I've dealt with women like that too. Another girl I dated, she told me that she's like, okay, so I'm a little crazy. And then, like, as the relationship went on, she would blow up at me for stupid shit. She would talk to me about how she had shooters and how I better not mess up because she'll get her shooters on me. Um, all kinds of nuttiness, right? So there are women who are out here who do that. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with one of my followers. If you watch regularly, my follower Kel Alexander Luthor at this moment, um, he often talks about how his ex-girlfriend would manipulate, abuse, and use him. And I mean, that's a pretty blunt explanation, a blunt situation there. But oftentimes these deeds go unpunished because for some reason we're taught as young boys that we should not hit women. Some do, and it is what it is. That happens when we're taught that we shouldn't hit women. But who teaches girls that they should not put their hands on boys or they should not abuse boys? When in our culture, it's often celebrated to put your hands on men or make men go through shit, because it's almost like we're dispensable. We don't matter, especially in today's society where, you can't talk about men's issues because they feel like it takes away from whatever women have going on. But that's not the case. Two things can be true. Two things can happen at the same time. But we don't focus on men's issues. We don't talk about how I was watching, and I won't show this. We're going to see some other videos, but there were some issues. There's a couple of videos I saw where women were like running over their boyfriends with cars. One woman for cheating on ran over her man for cheating on her, took the bumper off after the accident and like started hitting him with it while he was bleeding on the ground, cussing him out. right? And it was a horrible sight to see, but every woman's like, what did he do? Like, he must have deserved it. She wouldn't just do, yes, she would, because they'd be crazy. But when it came to, let's say, the Chris Brown situation, where women jumped on Rihanna's bandwagon, the Navy jumped in, it was like, oh, he's terrible, cancel him, blah, blah, blah. That didn't work. But men started asking, well, what did she do to make him beat her that bad? And women started talking about men being toxic and how that's awful. Like, you don't need to know that. Just know that you shouldn't put your hands on a woman and yada, yada, yada. But I was also told a long time ago that if you want to step up like a man, you need to be prepared to get your ass beat like a man. But we often don't talk to girls about what not to do when it comes to men. Hey, this says Facebook user. So I'm gonna look at the comments real quick. Can child abuse make someone an abuser? Yeah, it kind of not depends on the abuse too. Let me see. Because I was also watching something, and I can't believe I'm gonna say this. Excuse me. I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but I was watching a video earlier that talked about R. Kelly, one of my least favorite people. And oh, this is Norman. I was R. Kelly, one of my least favorite people, and how R. Kelly had his past with abusing young girls and whatever. But they said like R. Kelly was molested by his sister, right? So he was molested by his sister, and of course he turned into what he became. So abuse can definitely trigger people into becoming abusers because as I talk to my therapist about this, I teach my psychology class. The things that we experience in our childhood, especially between the ages of like 2 and like 8, when we become adults, we often run to those things for comfort. That's our comfort zone. So people who experience abuse, whether it be verbal, physical, whatever, they often perpetuate that into other people or onto other people when they get older because that's their comfort zone. That's what they know. I dated a young woman who her life growing up was very chaotic. And so in turn, when shit hit the fan in our relationship, she often turned to chaos. Whereas in my life, I always say my life was boring. I don't remember, like, I remember my parents arguing in front of me on like a handful of occasions, especially not the ones that got really bad. There were some like, disagreements in front of us, but like to where it escalates once, twice, whatever. So for me, like, I always sought peace. Whereas other people, like in her situation, she did chaos. She was abused. Her mom was crazy. Her dad was abusive to them. I'll tell you a little quick story about her mom. She told me that her mom and dad had got into it. Her mom was really upset at her dad, and her mom just started throwing stuff at her dad. Just throwing stuff. He's sitting there calm, but she's missing everything she's throwing. She got so irate, so upset that she could not hit him that she started to try to pick up the refrigerator to try to throw it at him. It gets bad. See, one thing that we give women the grace of being sugar, spice, and everything nice, but we give women the grace of being sugar, spice, and everything nice. But what we often don't recognize is that when women get to a certain point, then they will be upset for a very long time. They can go to the extreme very quickly. I've seen this for myself in a few different situations, right? So you got to know that women can go there too, but we don't give them the same credit as we give men. Like, oftentimes when you talk to women about getting involved with a man and being married and talking about marriages of the past, they're like, oh, granddad was beating grandma over the head, or, I'm afraid to get married. because I don't want to get married because I'm not gonna have some dude think he can control me and he has to hit me and this, that, and the third. But there are dudes who go through the same shit all the time. It's a thing, but we don't have those. We don't share those stories, and oftentimes men don't do it because of the stigma that goes along with it. It's embarrassment, or the fact that we're really not taught to stick up for ourselves when it comes to women. And also, like I said earlier, when the police show up, they're going to talk to you. They're going to arrest him anyway. Right? So what is a man to do when shit hits the fan? What's a man to do when his wife, girlfriend, or whatever starts to throw shit at him? Sit there and take it? Oh, you could put her down, sure. But the minute you put your hands on her, she can claim all kinds of things. And it's happened. In that same interview with Dr. Tiasan Johnson, the professor, he talked about how he was in an argument with his wife, and they were in a room together, and she stood in front of the doorway to keep him from leaving. So you think to yourself, okay, he could just move her out the way and just leave, right? Well, if he puts his hands on her, she can fall to the ground, claim she bumped her head. He put his hands on her at the end of the day. And that's a fail-safe that these women have when these things happen. So you can talk about it. I mean, and some women don't, do abuse, whatever, but you can talk about, women being abused and not being afraid to tell or whatever, but you can still do it and a man will still be punished for it. But the manipulation is not punished. It's very difficult to write laws and dictate what manipulation is in that sense, because oftentimes a woman will go to court and says, I was under duress. He hit me, defending myself. I was scared. And that's enough for people to let it go. As you can see, I'm a bit triggered by this topic today because, one, I've been through a situation where, that whole, it's like Kel said, equal rights and equal lefts. I've been in situations where I've had to defend myself against girls, but I was like hard pressed to do it because I knew that I was going to be the one who was getting in trouble for it. You're absolutely right. I mean, she can claim shit happened if you didn't touch her, because it could be a push. It could be a choke. It could be like hair pulling. And that's hard. That's difficult things to prove. I mean, unless you got like DNA, your fingernails and stuff. But in domestic violence cases, it's just enough. Her word is just enough. So what I wanted to do is look at some things that I found on the YouTube, one of my favorite apps, and just kind of discuss how it's not even about what's right and what's wrong. And people, it's the attitude that goes behind all of this stuff. It's the attitude that abusing a man is somehow okay, or because he can defend himself, or maybe he's worthless or a loser. We think of him as Kel also said earlier about Jay Electronica. He might be seen as weak in the eyes of the world for not being able to control his woman. And I guess after I say this, I'll move on to it. But he's seen as weak for not being able to control his woman. And men are supposed to be able to control women with words, something that men aren't really good at. Only a very small percentage of men are that good with words to where a woman won't react that way. Hell, pimps are amazing with words, and they still, gorilla pimps anyway, still have to smack chicks up, right? And they're amazing with words. Pimps are poets, and they still have to smack chicks up. So very few men can do it, and then the law is behind it, says, I can't put my hands on you. And we now live in a world where accountability for it just isn't taught. Like, as a man, and I'm gonna try to make this the last thing before I move on. As a man, you grow up knowing accountability from pretty much day one. The minute you get into your first fight as a boy, you understand that somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. And sometimes the winner is not going to be you. Sometimes somebody bigger than you is going to destroy you. Sometimes you're going to destroy somebody else who might be better than you, whatever, right? But you understand that there's a consequence to what happens. I don't think that happens for women, especially not with physical violence, because girls don't fight like boys fight. Girls fight with words. Boys fight with their fists. Girls are more likely to ruin your reputation, talk shit about you behind your back. Boys will squab it out right there, and then it'll be done with. But for some reason, we've come to this point where it seems as though girls think they're just as good or better than boys, and that they can put their hands on them and nothing's going to happen because they're not going to suffer any consequences other than that dude being busted in the head or dude busting her in the head or in the face. But at the end of the day, he's still going to get punished for it. She's got her vindication because somebody else handled that problem. And I'm not saying at all that we should be hitting each other. It should be okay. But at the end of the day, I tell people all the time, at the end of the day, when it comes to men and women, I can beat your ass. As a man, I can beat your ass. And I'm not saying I want to, but that's the way God designed me. I'm strong enough as a man to take care of the things that the average woman can't. Right? Talk to God about it. Anyway, I want to go to, let's see which one. There are a couple of videos here that kind of show kind of the attitudes towards men and the things that men go through and the violence that they experience. So I'm going to start here with one that you might be familiar with. By the woman of the name Lorena Bobbitt. I'm not going to share the whole video of her explaining what happened. I'm just going to hit some highlights and move forward. So I'm going to read a couple comments first from Kel. Shit, I got threatened because my ex hurt her hand. Oh, let's say her. When I hurt her hand when I blocked her slapping me. Logic was it ain't hurt that much. Yeah. I mean, if she comes out with some kind of injury, it's automatically your fault. It's almost like how when kids are injured and you take them to the hospital and then they have to look at them like you weren't abusing the kid, were you? Man goes into the ER with his wife and they're not looking at the wife like, did you do this to him? She's going to get the benefit of the doubt. All right. Jasmine said everybody needs to practice self-control. Hell yeah, everybody needs to practice self-control. But that also comes with some accountability and understanding what the consequences are. And a lot of times in our society, people don't understand, especially, I mean, these women, we're talking about these women in these situations, they don't understand the consequences. Men have aggression and rage, and that's kind of built into our DNA. Like we handle things more physically. We're very simple. Men need to practice self-control. Women in these situations need to understand the consequences and then practice self-control themselves. So let's go to this video of Lorena Bobbitt, a story that you might be familiar with. And let's go to here. Let's share this audio here. And I'm going to go to this video.
Certain newsmakers that we'll always remember, folks tied to headlines so extraordinary that they instantly become part of American pop culture. And when they disappear from the public eye, we often wonder, well, you know, what became of them? Well, that's certainly true of my next guest. Take a look. Crimes of passion, affairs of the heart going tragically wrong. The extreme cases instantly become worldwide news stories and captivate the public. But few tales of lovers who lost it have left.
I'm going to stop right here and I'm going to go back to diaper wearing astronaut jail in love triangle. She drove all the way to NASA in Florida with a diaper on to go holler at her husband and his mistress. Lisa Lopez burnt up her boyfriend's house. Andre Rison, I think it was, burned up his house. Bleaching the shoes, light them on fire, house caught on fire. People laugh about it. Sad shit.
Stories and captivate the public. But few tales of lovers who lost it have left a bigger impact than John and Lorena Bobbitt's. Their volatile marriage, filled with allegations of abuse and infidelity, came to a gruesome conclusion when, in a fit of rage, Lorena took the one thing most precious to her husband and committed the one act every man fears the most.
Now watch this. Listen to this.
Joining us now, please welcome Lorena Bobbitt.
She's thanking them. Of course.
I know.
You know, but the audience, though, all this here, what was all this about?
All right, so if you don't know the story of John and Lorena Bobbitt, John and Lorena Bobbitt were married. She's from Ecuador. He was from the States. I'm assuming I'm not gonna say she needed a green card, but maybe. And John was, according to Lorena, was abusive to her. And he was abusive to her. He marital rape was involved, and eventually she just couldn't take the abuse anymore, and she ended up doing the one thing that she said every man fears the most. So I'm going to fast forward to this part where she actually talks about it, and just pay attention to the reaction of the crowd and even Steve. Really,
what was the breaking point for you?
Well, my body couldn't take it. My mind couldn't take it. I was very scared. So obviously I snapped. I mean, all the abuse that I had from him, I basically, I cut off his penis because he abused me that much. But he abused me. I did not mean it because I was under the battered woman syndrome. And that's what happened when a man pushes the woman so far and so low. My self-esteem was down. And he came that night and abused me. And I went to the kitchen for a glass of water and to calm myself up because he was abusing me that night. And all of the things I remember was I took a glass of water and then I found myself in the street with a penis in one hand and the knife in the other. And so, yeah, that happens. I mean, I'm telling you,
it happens.
Is a true story.
Yeah, it happens.
This is the truth. This is a true story. I'm telling you, and I'm here to tell you and to tell everyone what happened when a woman gets abused by a man.
Can I ask you a couple questions? So, but what made you take it though? I mean, you cut it off, and
so I'm gonna stop it there. Because I mean, at this point, it just becomes jokes by Steve, right? Now, I'm not saying that John Bobbitt should have, been unpunished, but there's no kind of empathy for him getting his penis cut off, and I suppose it's because it's one of those things that many women feel like they would do the same thing if they were in that situation, or they would want to do, but she actually blacked out. She actually blacked out and was able to do it. Let me go to another video here where it is a talk show, and you gotta please excuse the video quality here, but it is a talk show in Britain where this guy's explaining his violent baby mama, wife, or whatever, and the things that she put him through. Excuse me. And I'm gonna try to. The audio is a little unclear at points, but I try to piece together as much as I can of what happened to him. There we go. go back to the audio here. Share the audio, share this video.
You came out, which I thought was quite interesting. You said, I don't really like to admit this. She was violent. We both made mistakes, but she's very controlling. Yeah. And I felt like she called the shots in this relationship.
Well, she locked me in flat one day.
She locked you in the
flat? A flat is an apartment.
Obviously, me being angry, I didn't know the door was locked. I've gone over.
Okay, let's go back a little bit. Now, one thing I will say, and I'm not much for looks. I don't really talk about people like that. That's not really my MO. I will say that if you are dating someone who is unattractive, you either get one of two things from them. You'll either get somebody who's grateful that you gave them a chance, and you'll get somebody who is so insecure that they have to control and manipulate you. Something to look out for. So if people might not find this person attractive, then you might be in for a treat. And it's something I've learned in my dating life too, because I've dated some people who I thought were a bit unattractive too, just maybe one or two dates, but this is also why I stay away from them. So let's go back and play it.
Locked. I've gone over, I've grabbed the door handle, pulled it, and it's come straight off in my hands. So,
all right.
With
So
Fundrise, you can invest.
I'm gonna stop here because I don't know what that is. So yeah, I mean, of course, this is Britain, and people think, oh, it's Britain, it's a little different. No, it's the same thing for women across the board. Again, we can look at a bunch of other different things in America, and it'll show you like, hey, it'll show you like, hey, men's feelings in these situations. People will laugh at men being abused. It's funny for some reason. It's almost like when women got the upper hand and got in power, like all these things became funny. There's no sympathy for the men. Let us see. All right. So this next clip is from BBC and BBC 3, and there is it is a social experiment where they put an abusive couple out. One for the first half of the video, it's a man abusing a woman or being abusive to a woman. The second half of the video, it's a woman being abusive to a man, and they of course wanted to see how they would respond and react. And here we go.
You want me to show you? In your hands or something. Where is it? Where is it?
Have you got any?
Just do it. Just
Stop
do it.
it.
Just do it. What?
Please.
What? Don't cower like that, like you're scared.
Where'd you put it? Where is it? Do you want to smack again? Is that what you want? Is that what you want, Will? Or do you want to smack?
No, just...
Lots of us would worry if we saw a man abusing a woman on the street. Some of us might even intervene. However, what if the tables were turned and there was a woman abusing a man? So this is Will. We're going to test this out in public, and Will's going to start by being the aggressor, and he's going to verbally and physically intimidate me. Are you ready for this?
I think so. Up and just show me. Just do that. Wait.
Will. You right?
Thank you.
Fine, we'll just have a...
Well, she's clearly not fine. You okay? Do you need any help?
Yeah, thank you so much.
So why did people react in the way they did?
I was shocked. I couldn't believe this was happening in the middle of reading all this. I walked past her the one time and she flinched, and I thought, like, is this really happening? I carried on walking, and I looked back at her and she must have flinched again. I thought,
I'm gonna stop real quick just to say and be managed. She's so fine.
no, I can't walk away from this.
Just pick it up and just hand it over.
You okay now? Is everything okay?
I'm good.
Thanks for helping.
She was flinching and looked scared. It looked quite abusive.
So how many things?
Do it, come on. Just get in there and get it.
Sorry, but don't put your
We're
hands
just having an argument. So.
7 people stopped to help. 7.
You're okay. I don't want to interrupt you. I'm just saying, you're okay.
the way it looked like she was expecting to get hit. So that's where you sort of got to jump in, really.
Her body language so very obviously uncomfortable that I couldn't walk past without saying something.
Then we switched roles.
Give it to me.
This woman looks back but keeps walking.
I was surprised. I thought it was a bit aggressive. I wanted to say something, but then I was just like, no.
Look at me. Stop.
All right. Don't
Look
hit.
at me.
All right.
What are you doing?
My thought was, he looks a bit soft. I feel bad thinking that because it's on a macho view, but I thought he looks a bit soft letting him hit her like that. And I had the classic thing go through my head. I wouldn't let a girl hit me, and that's terrible because
he was soft. I wouldn't let a girl hit me. So he felt like because of that, he just kept walking.
why do I think that? That's a kind of stereotypical view. I don't know what he's done to upset her. He might have said something really, really personal and upsetting.
A mum and a daughter's approach.
Look at me. Look me in the face. Come on.
And walk straight past.
That the thought didn't come to my mind to go and say, what are you doing to him? Leave him alone.
So I thought that the man would have, I think that the man done something to the woman, like, I don't know, touched her or something. And then that's why she got mad. And that's why she got mad.
So you think it could have been his fault?
Yeah, that's why.
Seven for the woman, stopped to protect the woman. One person stopped to see what's going on with the guy. Maybe it's because of the grace they give the women, saying, hey, he might have done something to her. Maybe it's because they feel like he can defend himself. But either way, of course, there's no equity in this. We don't talk. There are a lot of talks about equality, but we don't talk about equality. We only talk about equality that benefits the women and never really anything to raise it up for men. And this is a good situation for it. Try to explain it.
From the smack quill. What is it? Where is it?
If he had been shouting at her, would you have stopped?
Yes, I would have. I would have stopped.
Unfortunately, we do have this kind of stereotype that a woman has less power than a man, but I've also unfortunately had friends who have been in the other reverse physically abusive relationships, so it can happen both ways. They didn't class it as that, but they have been hit in argument situations, which is exactly the same thing. But he used to think it was okay because he was a big, strong guy. It didn't hurt him, but it's still physical. He was very embarrassed about it.
In their lifetime, 1 in 6 men will suffer from domestic abuse. The number of women convicted of domestic abuse went up nearly 4 times between 2006 and 2016.
Yeah, a product of a culture where women don't have many consequences for their actions. It's definitely a huge problem that, I mean, hell, it's almost like they can get away with this, and it's almost like they know it. Another video I saw was pretty interesting. I'm going to see how much of this, well, I'm going to try to skip some parts because he had to upload this video like 2 or 3 times, and I can't get the entire video. But in this one, men jump at this woman's protection at almost seemingly nothing. So let me see here where we are. All right, next one here.
She's not crying.
What are you doing?
We're talking to people on the streets.
About what?
Well, why is this being confrontational? Why
No, it's not a confrontation.
No, I'm just
You
very
upset
curious.
you upset the lady. You
Warning. The following film contains highly controversial footage because it's got a woman in it. Hearing facts.
And that's enough to be
who's
controversial.
forced to think for herself.
That's
As
enough
such,
to be
it might be
controversial.
removed at any moment, like it has been before. Enjoy. Excuse me, miss. Hello. Hi. Can you tell me what we've missed here? Because it looks like something great happened, and we just showed up now. What's going on here?
Yeah, we're in acting class, and we've chosen political speeches that we admire, and we've taken them to the park to give to the public. And practice just spreading the words that we find passionate and powerful. Yeah.
That's great. I was wondering what was going on because she's up there and people, all these people, and I'm like, what's happening here? Fantastic, fantastic. Can we ask you a really quick question for a little video? Just whatever comes to your mind naturally. What would you say? Can you name some things women just have a knack for more so than men?
Probably compassion and empathy and generosity of heart. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not, a lot of people go with that. And what
generous
comes to your
of
mind if I
heart,
say what would you say
compassionate.
men are better at than women?
I don't know. A lot. I think both have their pluses and minuses.
But she still can't explain what the male pluses are.
I think men are better at
Stupid idiot.
probably guarding themselves. Yeah.
Guarding themselves.
Not so good with the emotions. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. Yeah. Well, they're good at a lot of things, but that's
Nothing that you can think of right now.
that's just the one that came up. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like muscle stuff. Usually we're pretty good at muscles.
Muscle stuff?
You know, like strength.
Sure.
That's an easy one. That's a go-to one.
Oh, I think women are good at that too. Yeah.
But like as a tendency, generally speaking, women are more connected to the emotions, but men are usually a little bit more muscly.
I think that's been the stereotype, but I think that's definitely changing,
I think women genetically are catching up to men in strength.
Yeah, I think the emphasis on men having to be so strong and like that sort of stereotype, I think that's going down.
You think that it's
So she thinks and believes that women are genetically becoming stronger than men. Unless she confuses the question and she thinks he's talking about emotional strength. But I'm going to take it as what he asked and her answering. She thinks women are becoming genetically more strong than men.
It's an emphasis on men being strong, or men just are naturally just stronger because of their genetics.
Oh, interesting. I think
She's at a
women
feminist rally, by the way.
are just as strong as men. I don't
Physically?
Yeah. I do.
But they're not though, right? They're not. Like, look at this. I'm a normal dude. Look at my size. I'm just bigger, right? So I'm gonna have more muscle. That's a normal. It's just how it is. It's not.
Not all men.
No, there are of course exceptions, right? Of course, there's men who are like this tall, and you could just slap them and beat them up with one hand. But generally speaking, of course, there's men who are intuitive and very emotional and in their hearts and very good at connecting with their emotions too. But that's more rare than a woman who naturally would be more inclined to be connected to her emotion. You know what I mean? Like we just have differences, and that's what we're just exploring.
This is about the moment where I can see her brain starting to break, where she wants to hold on to this belief that there are strong women in the world and women can defend themselves. And the guy is basically telling her, like, hey, nah, not like how you think.
Stupid idiot.
We just find it really interesting how people are scared to say that we're different. I think it's okay to say that we're different. We all have our things.
It should be okay to say that we're
any
different.
sex is superior, but we're just different. We're just not the same.
I think it's just the word strong is a difficult one to apply to this because it's like saying women aren't strong.
We're only talking about physical strength. We're not talking like overall strength or goodness or any of those things. Just physically. That's all it was.
Yeah, I think I get that. But
No, she doesn't. I think she says she gets it, but I think her reaction is telling you otherwise.
I'm just questioning if there's another word that might, make it easier for people to say yes or no to that,
Is there another word for strength? Physical strength that would make her feel better?
I don't know. What's another good word for strong?
No, that's what I'm proposing is
It's a good word though. Strong is the word. Strong. Look at that. That's strong. So yeah, that's that. But don't you think it's interesting though that like that you yourself, you kind of struggled when we asked, you know, what are men better at? You kind of, it was a struggle. It was like there was some part of you that didn't want to admit that.
Because you don't want to go towards I don't want to go towards the like hyper masculinity and like feed into that sort of like, you know, box that men are put in, and there's a box women are put in, and so I think it's a challenging time to be like, what, you know.
Well, here's what I think. I think by admitting that we're different, but ultimately we're just, you know, we're just two halves of one coin, right? Like we need each other. We love each other. So for real happiness and joy and peace to happen on the planet, we need to accept that we're different, but not see any one side as superior or better. Just that we're just different, and then we accept those differences. We love each other. We come together, and we make beautiful babies. That's what I think.
Are you asking if I agree or
brain?
Well,
broken.
no, that's just what I think. But do you agree with that?
I don't even think she was listening.
Yeah, I think that everyone's different. I think, yeah.
Now,
do you?
Do I think everybody's different?
Yeah.
Well, let's keep it going.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Do you guys want to come talk to us? If anybody's wondering why the faces of a couple of certain gentlemen are blurred during this video, it's not because I don't want you to see black people. It's not like I'm trying to save all you from the evil black people. I love black people in a lot of situations more than white people. But one of these guys happened to have complained to YouTube that I used their likeness without their permission. And that's why this video was originally taken down. That's a whole story. And I rant about that in a separate video on my second channel. Link is below. Enjoy. I think they like you more. I think they like you. How you doing? How you doing? You want to come talk to us? We're talking about the differences between men and women, and we're just asking people. She's not okay. Well, I don't know. How am I gonna fix it? She's not crying. I didn't ask anything. I was just asking what's the difference between men and women. Is she crying? All right, let's go talk to her. How's it going?
What are y'all doing?
We're talking to people on the streets.
About what?
About the difference between men and women, what men are great at, what women are great at, everything. You want to talk to us?
Who are you for? What is this for?
For my YouTube channel.
Why is this being confrontational? No, it's not a confrontation. I'm very curious. You've upset the lady you were talking to.
I haven't asked anything upsetting at all.
So, as you can see, his questions and statements were fairly reasonable. No reason to cry over this. However, these gentlemen decided that they saw a woman crying and that they were going to swoop in and protect her without even getting the question. See, he's about to ask them, if he hadn't already, to, you know, if he could ask them the questions, and they're going to like still try to talk over him and figure out what's going on.
What have you asked? What are some of the questions you've asked?
I'm going to go through them with you. You want to do it? No, let's go through the questions. Let's go through the questions. All right. So we're gonna go through the questions.
There's no need to be confrontational. You were very confrontational to that woman.
Hang on.
Were you confrontational?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think.
He got accused of being confrontational with that woman. He got accused of being confrontational for talking to her about men being physically stronger than women. And just the fact that they saw her in distress was enough for them to jump in. Now, we just saw a woman putting her hands on a man, lumping him up, him like kind of cowering, and nobody did anything. In the chat, I also dropped some information for the National Domestic Violence Hotline. At 1-800-799-SAFE. It works for men and women. But I will say, I ran across an article earlier where they talked about a study, and they say a boot in Canada. So that's why I said that. They talked about a study. Let me see if I can find my notes. Where I found my notes. There is a study that says they did a study where they did use 302 men to call the domestic violence hotline. 32% of those men, so out of 302, 32%, I can't do math off the top of my head, so I'm guessing that's around 100 of those men that called the domestic violence hotline They were instead referred to the batterers program. So they called the domestic violence hotline because they were being abused, but instead a third of those calls were suggested to call in to the batterers program for the people who actually commit the violence, not the victims, the perpetrators, simply because they were men. 25% of those were given a number to call. That turned out to be the batterers program. Almost 70% of these men claimed the hotlines to be not at all helpful. 70% of those men said the hotlines were not at all helpful. And 57% of these abused men ended up being directed to the batterers program instead of receiving the help that they needed. Even though anybody of any gender can be a batterer, even domestic hotlines will assume that they were if they were male. And this is the stigma that we have in today's society. I mean, just like every other stereotype of that are in the world, like men have their stereotypes too. And unfortunately, when we are being abused, it's assumed that we were the ones who started it, initiated it, we're the aggressors, and that we need the help to not be so aggressive. Even in the interview I heard with Dr. Tiasan Johnson earlier, I might post a link later. The man was discussing how when he even went to therapy, they didn't even want to talk about the abuse part of it. And maybe that's a kind of clinical technique or something that they avoid, but they didn't want to talk about the abuse part of it. They just talked about, and they really just looked at him and examined him of what his issues were. Because for some reason in these situations, the women are perfect, which is why I love my therapist so much. My therapist is very fair. She will even say that some of these women were aren't held accountable. And I love her for that. She's awesome. Let us see here. Going through some of my notes again. Valley Oasis in Lancaster, California says it was the first to accept its men into its shelter, where it put together men and women, male and female victims, and they got a chance to actually talk to one another to understand, like, oh, they go through it too. As one of my followers said earlier, abuse begets abuse. Hurt people. And so they got a chance to understand that, it wasn't just like all men. It was, hurt people, honestly. Let's go into another note that I have here. There are only two domestic violence shelters in America that are dedicated to men. One is in Batesville, Arkansas. It's 2 stories and 21 bed. I'm sorry. No, that one is a 3-bedroom house in Arkansas, privately funded, right? In Texas, it's a 2-story, 21-bed house, also privately funded. They opened it up because they were sending so many guys to hotels that they're like, well, we might as well. And of course, as I said in the BBC video earlier, the number of men experiencing these things are going up. And so, of course, they need more space. There are, where did my note go? There we go. There are 3,000 shelters in America dedicated to women. Okay, no, the first women's shelter was started in 1973. 1973, just outside of the women's liberation movement, feminist movement, maybe the second wave of feminism. And the first men's shelter, 2014. 2014, that's 7 years ago. The first shelter for men was opened up in America. Right? So it's kind of difficult to say, and I have to ask this question often with people. What is the course of action in changing the attitudes of people? Because it takes a while for culture to shift. As I get older, as most of us were told when we were younger, we're special and we can do anything, and so we think that we can change the world. And as I get older, I realize that we cannot. So you have to submit to the fact that you can only do so much. Getting the information out there is one thing, and we can do. Sharing the information is another. But we have to be able to change our attitudes, and we have to be able to tell our kids and teach our children, like, yo, you shouldn't be putting your hands on anybody. But we also, as adults, many of us, I'm not saying I do this. I don't have any children nor a wife to even beat up, but I wouldn't do that anyway. I'm not a confrontational person. I hated playing football. So for me, the idea for me to hit people is just not a thing. We have to be able to teach our kids, like, you shouldn't be putting your hands on anybody, and we have to teach them what manipulation is. We have to be able to teach them how to look out for manipulation, especially with our boys. When it comes to these girls, we have to stop telling them, like, yo, you're gonna get this perfect girl. She's nice and she's sugar spice and everything nice. And we have to be able to say, like, look, you're gonna come across some chicks who are gonna try to take advantage of you. Even for me, like, I remember dating some women who were doing some things to me, and it took a couple of, only one time I can think of where somebody told me that I was being taken advantage of. One time. Other times people were just like, stick with it. Don't quit. Be strong. She's going to do this. It's okay. And I was in some hellish situations for it. If anybody's on the call right now, I got 3 people watching, 1 on YouTube, 2 on Facebook. If anybody is on the call right now or on the video, wants to chime in, if you have some situations where you were abused, men preferably, or if you are a woman and you know other women who are abusive to their men, chime in, please. The link is in the chat. It's pinned there. And I really want to talk about it because, it's horrible to even think about. For me, just watching these videos, watching all the videos today, really got me riled up. It got me to thinking about situations that I've been in where I've been manipulated, abused. I remember I was dating this girl in college. It was my sophomore year, where she was so her parents were married at the time. Her dad worked, her mom didn't, and her mom was basically abusing her dad, not physically, but she would say all kinds of wild stuff to her dad, and he would just take it. And he would go to work, he'd take care of, he'd pay the bills, come home, everything, like take care of her little brother. He's paying for her to go to college. And at the end of it, like, she was just being really manipulative and abusive. And she ended up telling him at some point that she was having like an affair with a chick, like some girl. I don't know if they're still together today, but I know when I was in a relationship with her, I'm a pretty smart guy. And these days I'm a lot more stubborn than what I used to be. And so back in the day, like, I'm very open to new information. So if you know something I don't, like, I'm gonna listen to you and try to give you some credit. She used to tell me a lot of times that I was legitimately would tell me, you are wrong, and this is what it is. And it happened so often that eventually I just started buying into it. And one day I'm hanging out with her and 2 of my friends from high school, the ones who hooked me up with her, and she said something and they told her that she was wrong. And I was like, oh, she can be wrong too? I knew I wasn't crazy. And I just kind of snapped out of it. And after that, the relationship was kind of toxic after that, because I started to challenge her a bit more. But it was just a wild thing to think about. Like, this girl's literally sitting here, like, telling me all the time, you're wrong, you're not as smart as you think you are, yada yada yada. And in my whole life, I've been told I was bright. My grades proved it. My conversations with people proved it. People loved me for my intellect. All my friends who were super duper smart loved hanging out with me. They thought I was super duper smart like them. But like, this girl was enough for me to like doubt myself. And that happens with a lot of guys, especially in their younger years when you don't really know girls like that. You got to learn this stuff. I'm gonna welcome Kel to the stream. What's up?
You all right, man?
Yeah, I'm good. How you doing?
I'm alive, just making some dinner.
That's what's up. So what you got for me, bro? Because I know I mentioned you earlier, and we had these conversations often. I mean, clearly you were in your situation experienced some abuse.
Oh yeah, most
A lot of
definitely.
it.
I mean, like, see, what's funny about it is, like you said, like you learn like earlier in life and everything with the whole like, yeah, it's like, hey, like shit happens when you're younger and shit like that, and you learn that like, yeah, like chicks is manipulative as hell. Yeah, like I ain't learned that shit till late because like I just wasn't in relationships like that. But
right,
yeah, I know like there were so many like manipulate, like even like tonight when I took my boy home and everything. So my ex has a small ass porch. Now with this porch, she got like this she got this bench on it to take up like most of the space on it and everything. So okay, like yeah, like hey, you got your bench, but birds built a nest. They shit on that bench from way up and everything. So the way that porch is built, you can only really put the bench in one place, otherwise the door can open. Now, she put the bench on the other side to avoid the bird shit on the bench. So when I get there and everything dropping my son, I'm like, hey, I'm just letting you know that your door, when it opens, it's going to make contact with that bench. And I'm only saying this because, like, I'm the only one using the front door to get in there and everything usually because, like, I got to take my kid home. I'm not coming through any other door.
Right.
So her rebuttal to that is, well, you need to open the door slowly. So I'm like, you're setting me up for a situation where like something can happen to your property.
A mistake can happen, yeah.
Right. And I'm saying like, dog, I'm at the point where like, yeah, it's like, hey, if that shit break, fuck it. I'm not paying for it. You can just call the cops on me, fuck it. Cause like that shit's ignorant. But yeah, like it's not even just physical shit they do. Now she has done some physical shit.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like it's so much stuff.
When you say physical shit, what are you talking about exactly? If you don't
All
mind.
right, so there was a time where she put her hands on me a couple of times in our relationship and everything. So one of the times I was cooking. Now we already had it established in our relationship, like, hey, we ain't doing no play wrestling shit like that. And it's like her logic was always like, hey, men are stronger than women, don't know their strength, and she doesn't want to get hurt. It's a pretty bland ass relationship. But
right,
I was cooking, and she thought it was funny to just start slapping me in my arm. I was like, hey, stop that. So she kept doing it, and I kept saying like, hey, quit that shit. So she just kept going about like 11 times. I said, stop. She hit me about 14 times. And I lifted my arm up and she hit my elbow. And she hurt her hand and it bruised it. She started crying and called her mother. And her mother was like, why are you putting your hands on Simone? Why are you hitting her? I'm like, oh my God. Like I didn't do anything. Like
that's nuts.
Right. And like even just recently and everything is like I went to take my son to see his grandparents basically and everything. Like, and one of the neighbors asked and everything how things were going and everything, and he asked about my kid's mom. Like, man, like, hey, like, I really don't want to talk about her. I have nothing positive to say at all about this woman. And it's like my dad comes out and says he just bitter about the divorce. I'm just like, wow. And
your dad said that?
Yeah, my own father. Like I don't got a father like yours and everything. Like, hey, round of applause for that man and everything. That dude awesome and everything. Like, hey, I told you, but yeah, I like that.
I just downloaded that sound effect. I just downloaded that.
Hey, that's a good download. Like I say, like I would trade you in a heartbeat, but at the same time, I don't want your life to be worse. Cause like imagine getting the worst possible advice ever from like a dude. And all the time, it was almost like not having a father with him, but like, yeah, like when it came to like the abuse from like my ex, it was like I felt like I was stuck whenever like I was getting manipulated left and right. Hell, we even went to counseling at one point, and it sucked because like I'm paying $175 a session for 2 sessions a week to be told, yeah, she right, you wrong. Like how?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah, that's one of the things that a lot of guys have issues with when it comes to going to therapists is that, I mean, of course, many people who work in mental health who are mental health counselors are women. And they were raised in this society just like we were, and so they're more often to look at the woman like, oh yeah, no, you need to fix you. She's just gonna be her. And here's some ways to work around that to not piss her off. How about you tell her to control her fucking anger, control herself, work on her toxic issues. Did y'all go to therapy separately?
I went individually at one point, but no, like we went together because like she was accusing me of cheating. And I'm like,
okay,
no, like hoes don't want me. I'm not cheating on you, I promise. But like, yeah, so we go and like she wanted me to do all the work. So it's like I had to find somebody and everything. There was nobody within like my network that would do it. So I had to like pay full price and everything because insurance wouldn't cover it. So we go. Right. And like the lady asked what like her problems were and stuff like that. She was like, oh, well, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. Like, it's like I feel like he's cheating and I feel like he wants to talk to other women, stuff like that. Now, I had several women that were friends of mine, but it was like that's exactly what it is. It was like completely platonic and everything. She even had issues with that. So the woman asked me what my issue was. I'm like, nah, like I'm in a marriage and I'm not fucking. So that's the issue. She was like, oh, well, yeah, like, well, if you make her comfortable, you do this and that. And like, but no, that's not how it works. Like, she's literally like being manipulative with that and everything. Like, we literally got into an argument one time. And she was like, man, if I ever get with another nigga, I'm fucking him immediately. And it's like, that shit hurt.
Damn.
Like, dog, that shit hurt like hell because, like, I'm like, you made me abstain for 2 years before we got married and everything and didn't even say you want to wait till marriage until we got engaged.
Yeah, I think I could feel your pain because I was listening to what Fresh and Fit podcast earlier, and they were telling the girls like a man doesn't want to he doesn't want to pay 50 grand for something that somebody else paid 100 grand for. I mean $100 for.
Right.
Like she made you pay with the marriage and the time and holding out and everything, and the minute she meet another dude, it happens, lickety split.
Right.
Yo, that's sexual, and I didn't think about that.
And that's it, like that, and that's like literally in the marriage when she's saying that and everything. It's not like she said that junk like just before we got divorced. This was like maybe like 5-6 months in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow, like that's how you feel, like, and it's like because like
5 or 6 months in.
Yeah, like 5 or 6 months into the marriage and everything. Like this is like the first year. And it's like you're already invested like 50K into a wedding and stuff like that. Like blow all your resources and shit trying to like make shit happen. It's like now I'm like, well, I'm kind of stuck. Like
Jesus. No, that's terrible. I mean, and that's one thing. I mean, I don't really have too much experience in it, but I've heard for sure that there are a lot of men in sexless marriages, and you really don't think about how, it's being used as manipulation because women know that. I mean, that's we want it bad, and especially with you as being somebody who, I mean, in our conversations, like, it's not like your door getting beat down by a bunch of chicks. Like, that's a really painful situation to be in a marriage where you're supposed to be. It's supposed to be like, surefire, all there kind of thing.
Right, like if you're in a marriage, you think like, well, like, hey, fucking is guaranteed. There'll be like some days which like, yeah, like, hey, I'm not in the mood, but like, it ain't gonna be every day.
Yeah,
it was every day, my guy.
No, I couldn't do that. You probably get me at like 2 weeks at a month, and I'd be like, hold on, something's not right here. Because if it don't happen now, it ain't never gonna happen. So.
And that's what it was, but like once I got like broke as hell, sitting there like struggling to pay for things because like I'm just sitting here like constantly like trying to make like life work and stuff. Like it ain't nothing like okay, as a man I'm told I'm supposed to provide, I'm supposed to protect and all this shit and everything. And I'm providing as best I can, I'm protecting as best I can, I'm doing everything I can preemptively. Like that's things like I went into the relationship with a strategy. My it's like, hey, we make this much together. Mm-hmm. So we should probably work towards a life where like, hey, one person's income is enough to handle everything, and then we could build from that and everything, build up. Mm-hmm. But she kept forcing situations that involved using like all the money. Like I'm still like, dog, like we don't need a more like I say, like I got an apartment already and everything. She was staying at home like initially, like, and that's things like she also like proceeded to make me feel like a shitty bum and shit like that for like, I don't know, like living at home with mom and everything. I was a scrub because I stayed at home. And I'm like, well, you stay at home too, and you make more. Like before I got with her, she was actively looking for a place to move into and everything. And I'm like, how come you don't just get you a place? Like, I'm not gonna get a place for you to hang at. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's so crazy you said that because I legitimately I was dating this chick when I first got to Houston, and one of the first things that she told me was that she liked a guy who had, what did she say? Transportation. Basically it was like a dude, as long as a dude had a car, a job, and a place to live, and she was living at home with her mom and had been like all her life. I'm like, what the you've been here, you've been living here and working like
Right.
you can't get out and stay on your own by now, like that's nuts. But I'm the one who had to come with all the shit.
Right. Like I said, like there's stipulations for men. Like men have to have stuff for a woman, whereas like honestly, like the women I like the most probably like don't have the best jobs.
Yeah.
But hey, you just enjoy their time. They're like, that's like, hey, you know what? Don't even worry about all that and everything. Like, hey, we can find a way to make a life fun life and make it work and everything. As long as like, hey, we stay on like this level of like, hey, we good. But yeah, like with my ex, it was like, yeah, it's like, hey, like let's put it like this. I knew she made money when I got with her, but that wasn't why I got with her. It was like, and that's the thing. It's like I only factor her money is like, well, I mean, hey, if we come on hard times, it shouldn't be that hard because she makes decent money.
Right. You would think that she would be ready to pick up the slack.
Right, but no, like that's things like, hey, if she had to pick up the slack and everything, like, hey, like I get hit with shit. Like, I wish I was a man. Like, why? Because I'd have been able to.
She wish you. You say what?
She said she would have been a better man, like better at being a man than me one time and everything. I'm like, oh, like just because like your life is good now, like trust me, like it's not the same. Like the opportunities you got growing up would have been completely different. I promise you. Like it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, that's like you know, the when I posted my post the other day about how women talk about if they're a man for a day, they would like go have sex with a woman. I'm like, you have no clue what it takes to have sex with a woman.
Like you think you
yeah, you think it's about to be easy. You just about to walk over and like talk to some chick and be like, yo, can we have sex? And she be like, yeah, and you gonna end your day. You're gonna end your day knowing what sex feels like as a man, and you won't. But I mean, it's just kind of clear to me though. Like when you talk about these things, and I know you crack jokes about it, and they be funny as hell. When I be listening, I'll be like, man, oh, that's like abusive as hell, and I'll be trying to figure out how. Well, I kind of understand getting to know you, like how you fell into that. But like, did you at any point did you even like recognize it as abuse?
I mean, I did, but it was at the point where I was like so in it. Plus, like you also like kind of like how other dudes are like, it's like, oh well, I'm getting abused, but like nobody give a damn because it's me getting abused. I'm a dude. Like if I was doing this shit to her, I'd be wrong. Like if I was depriving her of the dick, like, oh yeah, you a terrible nigga. Like yeah, it's like if I was putting my hands on her, like yeah, like hey, prison immediately. Even her parents said that shit and everything. But like yeah, like I knew shit was wrong. But I felt like I was stuck in a situation. Plus, I mean, like I said, like I'm not the most sought after dude and everything. And it's like mathematically it ain't make sense because I mean, but still, like since I wasn't, it was like, well, I guess I gotta try my best to make this work. We married, we already invested in this. If I can work harder, it'll get better. But work harder is like shit just didn't get better. So I was like, yeah, like I said, that last time she put her hands on me, I was like, yeah, we gotta quit because yeah, I'm gonna retaliate because fuck all that.
Yeah, it's I don't know, man. Like you said, you felt like you was stuck because retaliation is not. And I think a lot of people miss out on that too. Is like when we're in those situations as guys, like you know, we don't think about retaliation because, well, one, we make a commitment and we want to be a man of our word, and two, we're always taught to like stick through it. But also like we know we can't retaliate because like we talked about earlier, like she can she, nothing can happen, and she could say you hit her, or like there's always that failsafe. Or like I think Kevin Samuels mentioned in one of his episodes, he said the one where where he asked a woman if black men belong to black women, he has said like, you're the one who brings the police into my house. So
Right.
men don't call the police on women like that unless it's like some extreme situation. Excuse me. But
I mean, even if you do, it's like, yeah, like, was it extreme enough for the police to give a damn? Like,
yeah, because like we said earlier, like abuse could, I mean, like I said with Billy Sorrells, you got seven different filings for domestic disturbance or domestic violence, and like they still don't do anything about it. You got proof that your wife is trying to put a hit out on you, and they like, oh well, whatever.
Like, sound like you should have been a better husband or some shit. Like,
yeah, say some shit like that. It's crazy. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, like
But
even
no, I
after
mean,
and everything, people are like, oh, if you want to get off child support, man, you got to go back one more time and like fuck her right and everything. Like, nigga, she wasn't trying to fuck before.
I'm about to say I've heard that shit before too. Not with you, but like definitely with other guys or other people. It's like, yeah, all you gotta do is, buy her some flowers, take her out to dinner, apologize, and give her some good dick. It should be good. I'm like, bro, how do you know that person don't want to be in that situation? Or they want to be in that situation? Like that's some toxic shit. I know for sure. For me, I've been in situations where I broke up with the chick, or me and the chick broke up, and I felt like a weight was lifted off of my shoulders because of the stress that I was under. I think even in my last relationship, I was telling somebody yesterday, I was stressed out as fuck. Like, and I didn't even notice until it was over, because I look back and I'm like, yo, she really like was being manipulative and really just abusive on my emotion. Like I would tell her like, hey, this makes me uncomfortable, please don't do that, and then she would just find a way to like squeeze it in there to do it. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck? But I mean, I was a little older, so maybe I should recognize, but like I really wasn't. I was kind of still in a phase of like, I'm gonna make sure she's pleased.
Right.
And that's kind of a hard thing to break out of. You said what?
So pretty much how my whole marriage was and everything. I was like, it's like, hey, we're gonna make sure she's happy, and it's like that shit doesn't pay off unless they want to make you happy too. Like it's got to be like some give and take. If both people ain't trying to make both people happy, that shit's gonna fail.
Yeah, for sure. And what I think a lot of people don't realize, and since I've been doing this, I've kind of just shared like, yo, we've been socialized in the same environment you've been socialized in, right? So men grow up with this idea of like we cater to women, like we're taught how to treat women, but they're not taught how to treat us. So we're thinking like it's all one-sided.
I mean, in theory, it is one-sided. I feel like women have like a lot of the power in relationships. Like, unless like the guy is making like literally all the money, funding her life completely financially, all that and everything, like she holds all the cards just on some like how she feels about things. Because I mean, even if the dude has all the money, like a good dude is gonna make sure you taken care of too.
Right.
That's generally what it is. But I feel like women, like let's say like they have a position of power, they're going to make sure they're taken care of. They're not gonna give a damn about you. Like, for example, like there's so many women that like I've taken out that I've like interacted with and everything, taken out and everything, shown a good time and stuff like that. And then it's like, yeah, when like the tables are turned and everything, I mean, it ain't the same. Like let's say I can go to some chick's house and everything, like, yeah, like, hey, so I get told bring my own snacks or something like that. She come to my place and everything, like, it's like, hey, what you want to eat? Make that shit right quick and everything. Throw a dessert together on a whim type shit and everything. It's like, yeah, like that shit ain't reciprocated. And then it's like, it was like that throughout the whole marriage where it's like, okay, like, hey, I'm doing for you. I'm trying to provide what you want. And then getting told like, well, hey, that's basic requirements right there.
Yeah.
So what am I supposed to get? You should just be happy I'm here, basically.
Pretty much. And that's just terrible. Also, too, like something about manipulation as well. We touched on it a little bit in the group chat, but like the idea of like, well, you can do it too, turns into you doing everything all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the and you probably experience a lot of this too, of the they say they want something, you go do it, and then when you present it to them, they're like, well, I don't want it anymore.
Or they don't want it like that. Like, no,
Yeah,
so
it's not done to their liking.
right. Like, so there's been several examples, everything. For example, like generally my work day was longer than my ex-wife's, everything. Like I started before her and I got done, like I started like 3 hours before she even woke up. But also like I got back from work probably 30 minutes before her and everything. So her day is clearly shorter than mine. So like, I mean, one time I'm on my way home from work and everything, and she's like, "Oh, I really want some brownies." I'm like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
I got cocoa powder, flour, sugar, eggs, all that other shit in the cabinet. Like, all right, cool. I'll make her some brownies right quick. I make them. She get back. It's like, yeah, I wanted brownies from Starbucks. I'm like, what? You got like a whole pan right here and everything. Like, yeah, that's not what I want and everything. It ain't even got like the chocolate chunks in them. And it's like, actually, it do, because I know you like the ones from Starbucks. So I went ahead and preemptively made them the way you like them. No,
But they not Starbucks.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, that shit's nuts, bro. And I be look, I be goddamn, like for real, like I'd be so irritated. But that's the thing, like that kind of stuff is abuse too. That's abusive. I mean, you know, the idea of being abused is often just carried with the like physical abuse,
Right.
like because you know, but hell, like we said, always say, women don't fight with they don't fight with their fists, they fight with their words.
Well, I mean,
And
they
they
do fight
control you
with
with
their
their
fists and
words.
everything. It's just that you can't fight back when they use their fist either. So
Well, yeah, that too. That
I
too.
know
But I
so many
mean,
chicks be like, I fought boys when I was in school. I'm like, did you fight boys, or did like he push you, you push him, and then like your dad and all the other teachers and other boys came and saved you? Like, did you
oh
really
yeah, no,
fight?
that'll happen too.
Yeah.
They'll take credit for fights that they didn't have.
Right. They be summoning
That's
dudes.
yeah, dude. That shit is oh, that shit is so sad, bro. And I think about it. I think about it a lot because I mean, when I was in school, I'm not like I'm not a fighter, and I've never really been one. But I will defend myself. But there have been instances where I have been hit by girls, and I'm not gonna lie, like I retaliated. Like I've either punched. I remember in kindergarten, not kindergarten. I was in elementary school. I kicked one girl in the stomach because she hit me. Like, but my brain, you know, my brain wasn't so focused on she's a girl. I'm
Well,
like, yo,
focus
you
on
just
you hit
hit
me, I
me.
hit you back. Like, no, I get
Yeah,
you.
you hit me. What the
It,
fuck? Like, what makes you think that that's okay? Like,
it's
and
funny because
I don't tolerate that from nobody. Like, I don't even tolerate a girl telling me "fuck you." Like, yo, don't say that shit to me. That's not cool. Them fighting words.
I'm not laughing at like violence against women just so people know. It's like I'm just laughing at like the logic. Like I'm thinking like in her mind because like this thing is like she hit this dude and thought that joke was okay, and then like
Yeah.
got bodied by somebody hitting 10 times hard. Because that's the one thing that my father taught me that I like took with me and everything. Like because he only taught like one lesson that was actually like applicable. If
The
somebody
one
hit
thing.
you, yeah, the one thing. If somebody hits you, you hit them back 10 times harder. That's why
For sure.
somebody come with a gun in a fight to me and everything. Like, hey, I'm shooting missiles and everything. You insult me, I'm insulting your whole family. Like that's like I'm going above and beyond when it comes to my retaliation and shit like that. And it's like that's how I knew I stopped loving my ex because like it got to the point where it's like so. There are chicks that I'm cool with and everything. And I feel like, yeah, it's like, hey, we can sling insults and everything and they're jokes and it's cool. With
Yeah.
her, I never felt that way. So it's like she would insult me and I just wouldn't say anything. I'd pretty much just beg her to stop and everything. Like one time, like just in tears, and something like, dog, like, why am I being called a cunt? Like, dog, like this shit's fucked up. Like, who calls their dude that and everything? So it's like one time and everything. I was like, man, like, get your fat ass away from me and everything. Like, take your ass upstairs, go take a nap or some shit. And it's like, that's when I knew that I really just didn't like her anymore. It's like, dog, like, I would never insult like anyone I care about, like with malice. And
Yeah,
it's like
that's
she
for
was
sure.
crying. I'm like, well, I don't even care no more.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I mean, if you get to that point, because everybody has a breaking point. Like I even got to that point with my ex, because towards the end of our relationship, when shit kind of hit the fan, that's like a whole story. That literally take me like another hour to tell. But the issue when the shit hit the fan, like I was trying to work it out, like and have peace, and she was bringing chaos, and I just remember like we got to points where I thought shit was peaceful, and then she would spark the shit back up again. And we get to, and then it'd be peaceful, and then she sparked the shit back up again, and it'd be peaceful, and then she spark it back up again, and to the point where eventually, I just like I remember she asked me a question through text, and this is how I knew I was done mentally. I just told her, I was like, because I had repeated myself so much, I just said, refer back to the text I sent last week on this day. Refer back to the text I sent back. And then I remember she called me, and I just did not want to pick up. I was like, I don't want to, like, I know that if I pick up this phone, I'm going to lose it.
You'll be mad.
So,
like, nothing like getting a call and having an exasperated sigh, because, like, like, I feel like I shouldn't feel that way with any girl that I'm with. If I sigh, like, when I see you, like, it was bad. Like, I got disappointed when I saw her name on my phone and everything while we were still together. I was like, God, like, how come it can't be that scammer, dog? Like, I want somebody to scam me out, like, I don't know, like one of the Nigerian princes or some shit. Fuck it. Like,
and that's a horrible feeling to have when you're supposed to be with somebody, you're supposed to love them or whatever. Like, you don't want like, they're supposed to be your peace. You don't want to look at your phone and be like, oh, here we go. And that's exactly what it gets to a lot of times. It's like, you know, as guys, excuse me, we normally, like, you know, we'll stick through it, but everybody has their breaking point.
Right.
You know, you can only take it for so long till you realize, like, yo, I can't do this shit anymore. Like, you hope things will change. We're optimistic. You know, we make the decision to be with you, and you know, because we often see better in people, and then they show us that they're not that.
Right.
You know, and then
that's it, like, dudes fall in love with potential too.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I'm saying, like, women, like, yeah, like, I fell in love with his potential. Like, no, like, hey, we do that too. So, like, that's not gender exclusive. We like, yeah, like, hey, she seemed like she'll be a good woman. She seemed like she got my back, and it's like, yeah, it's like, hey, you find out, nah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really strange. I mean, and I guess the older I get, the more I really understand how to avoid these things. But yeah, I understand how to avoid these things and like what to look out for. And I thank God for my experiences, because it's just gonna make it a lot better for me in the future. And I hope, and I hope that
early.
Oh yeah. Well, oh shit. I think I brought I don't know if I brought this up to in here earlier, but the dude from earlier, he had to do a breathalyzer like 3 times a day to make sure he wasn't drinking. He said he had to do that for 4 years. And you could just tell in his voice that he was just like ready to like quit everything.
What,
and I'm
like, for his girl, or like for what?
So apparently in his situation where he was alleged to be the batterer, despite the fact that she was the aggressor in most cases. They had, I guess they had what's the word I'm looking for? They mandated that he abstain from alcohol, and so to make sure that he did that, he had to take a at-home breathalyzer 3 times a day. He said he had to do that for 4 years because apparently some situation they had, there was alcohol involved, and so now they had to make sure he wasn't drinking, even though he had left his marriage.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. And nobody, and another one of the reasons why, like, the suicide rate for men is way higher than it is for any other groups, because I mean, we got to sit here and deal with shit that sitting there questioning ourselves of what they did wrong or what we did wrong when we did what was right for us.
Right, like I said, like you can be in an abusive ass relationship and everything. When you leave, you take all the penalties, and it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I get that way at times, not to the point where I'm about to like off myself or anything, but I just sit there and question myself, like, what did I do wrong? Like, how come I'm the one paying child support? How come I'm the one that had to downgrade my living situation? How come I'm the one working like 12 hours plus a day and stuff like that sometimes and everything to make ends meet, while like this woman hasn't had to work a weekend her whole life. Well, she did it once and everything, but still she hasn't had to work a weekend like at all, making like good money and everything. And I still gotta pay her because like, hey, she did me wrong and I didn't want to be here anymore. Like even like during the divorce process, like the court, like I said, you see on divorce court and everything, like you see both people say they side and shit like that. That's just for the drama. That's just because it's on TV.
Yeah, for sure.
In real
you filed,
life,
she filed.
You said what?
You filed, she filed.
I was going to file, and then it's like she filed because I took too long or something like that. Like I guess like hey, I took a week too long, so she did it.
She saw the writing on the wall and decided to beat you to it.
Pretty much. Like that's it. Once I left the house and everything, she was like, "Oh, you about to file?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then it's like 2 days later, I got papers served to me and everything while I'm filling shit out still. Because like it's one of those shitty situations where it's like, okay, like because like I left, because it's like like I was at the point where like it's like I don't want to put my hands on her. Like well, I wanted to, but I didn't want to. Like so. I move out, I get me a place, and it's like, like I have to use what little bit of money I have and everything to get shit together and everything. Like I literally stayed in my car for like 2 weeks and everything. That's where I was living for like 2 weeks. So finally get my shit together. Like, she actually had money on deck and everything to get a lawyer and get things started and get the process going and stuff like that. Cause like, it's hard enough to win or even come out like even in a divorce. But it's so much harder when one person has a lawyer and you don't, because I'm pretty sure, like that's things like because when I looked up like the retainers and everything, they're always like, like, hey, you got to pay in full up front. I need at least $5,000. And I'm like, man, I ain't got $5,000. Can I pay you in installments? Like, here are the hours I work. I work like I can give you the money. Like, no, it's got to be all at once. Like, well, can't do it. It's like things are progressing. And it's like you get put in like weak situations. Like, so one of the things they have is mediation. So they can try and like mediate like a deal. The problem with mediation was it costs $500 an hour. So I'm like, dog, like, so my 40-hour work week is what y'all charging an hour for me to discuss this and everything. So it's like her being in an advantageous situation and everything as far as like the money goes, she can actually stall out and everything. And like, it's like pretty much like, it's like, okay, but well, here's what she wants and everything. I'm like, hey, I don't agree with that. Well,
but but then you got to sit there and argue and spend a bunch of other money.
Right. Like money that she had that I didn't. So it's like the situation was like imbalanced and everything. Plus, I'm already paying her child support. So it's like, it's like, hey, I'm helping her pay while sitting here like, I guess I got to agree to these terms. Because I know like one of them was like, it's like, hey, after today, you can't fight for alimony no more. Like, I mean, I want to debate that, but I don't have $500 because like it was so bad with like the way courts, because like there were times where like I showed up for stuff and she didn't. So instead of like them like giving it to me in my favor, like, oh, okay, like we're just gonna move the date. And I asked like, I was like, so what happens if I don't show up? Like, you get, I was like, they'll give me like a default.
They'll give you a subpoena.
Right. Like, so I was like, oh, so I gotta be here. So like I'm missing work. I'm missing days and stuff like that, like burning vacation days I don't even have and shit, just to get hit with like the okie doke when I get there. Like, like, hey, so sign these papers. And they're like, it's like, oh, well, if you don't sign them and everything, it's gonna take more time. Like, well, and it's like in theory, I feel like I signed under duress, and like, I don't know, maybe that could be used, but like at the same time, probably not, because I'm a guy. So all the years, like my bank account was.
Yeah. So Isaiah said, if you haven't talked about it already, you got to mention Johnny Depp. I don't know too much about the Johnny Depp situation. I do remember a video of him like crying. Like I think he was getting raked. He was getting raked over the coal heavy. Johnny Depp.
Yeah, I think with Johnny Depp, like, so the way it worked was like Amber Heard, like they actually have like recording of like their conversation where like she's saying that she did certain stuff to him. I think at one point she even said like, it's like, hey, you're a man. I'm like a 115-pound woman. They're going to take my side. Like, damn. I mean, it's true, but like, and that's things like Johnny Depp's out here being canceled and everything for like, I guess possibly putting his hands on her, where it's like, she's admitting to what she did to him and everything. It's like they didn't want to like cancel her from the Aquaman movie and stuff like that. They were gonna keep her. I don't know if they still canceled her or not, but like, yeah, they definitely were like trying to like they had their pitchforks for Johnny.
That's so nuts. It's just crazy that despite that a woman could even come out and say like, yeah, or even if it was exposed, like, yeah, I did XYZ, that the dude would still get raked over the coals for it. Or like it's just, especially because Johnny Depp's like kind of rich, so you would expect him to like. Well, I heard he wasn't that good with his money, but
not at all. Like, dude,
he can afford lawyers.
He was going bankrupt, and he wanted like to keep his like private jets. Like, I can't fly with regular people.
Yeah, I remember that. But it's just see, this whole topic today has really like pissed me off. Like, I was in a pretty decent mood when I woke up this morning, and then I started doing research, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Is this world really that sad? Like, is it really that bad where like guys get the short end of the stick when it comes to this thing? And not saying that women, of course, you need to like protect people, but like to listen about guys getting laughed at, multiple filings of for domestic violence, and nobody's paying attention to it. The watching these videos of women like just walking or people just walking past guys who are getting beat up by their girlfriend. Like, I'm like, yo, I hope I never get into that situation like that. And I think I'm smart enough to stay out of it at this point. But actually, that reminds me, and this is probably gonna take us out. So what do you think people should look out for when it comes to like avoiding women like that, like women that might abuse, manipulate, and all that stuff?
So first thing I'm gonna say is this, especially if you like have like marriage as your goal.
Oh, let's go back and forth on it too. Just one after the other.
Like, if marriage is your goal, like anything she's not doing before y'all get married, chances are she's not gonna do it afterwards. So like, yeah, if she not cooking, she not cleaning, she not trying to fuck, she not spending the night and shit like that, you will get married, and like that's thing you will finally move into her, and like you're going to learn how she really is. And it's like that shit, like it probably ain't gonna go the way that you expect.
Right. Let's see. One thing that I think any woman who's like super selfish. I often tell the story of when I was on Bumble, and this chick decided, she was like, yo, can I call you? I was like, yeah, sure. And she pick up the phone, and she was like, yeah, I think it's good for us to like talk on the phone, to get to know each other before we meet, and yada yada yada. And I'm like, all right, cool. So what's going on? And this chick proceeded to talk for 45 minutes straight. Did not ask me one question about myself, where I came from, where I went to high school, what my parents do, my background, my brothers, sisters, none of that stuff, right? And I let her talk. I was playing video games at the time, so I was just gonna let her spout some shit out. And so at the end of the conversation, I told her, I was like, yeah, so if you call yourself wanting to get to know somebody, it's probably best that you ask them about them too, rather than talk about yourself for 45 minutes straight. Because I know that if a chick is that self-absorbed, especially with my contrarian like kind of personality, it's not gonna work, because I'm gonna look at you stupid when you have all these whims, and then I'm gonna say that's dumb, and then you're gonna want to fight me. So any chick that talks about herself and is not interested in you is probably gonna be abusive and manipulative to you.
Definitely. I think also any chick that like, yeah, like I feel like it's healthy in a relationship to let people know what you do and don't like. For example, like me, I hate Beyonce. Fuck her. But like, yeah, if you like her, by all means, enjoy it. Like that's like that's cool. But there would be situations where it's like my ex would interject stuff about her and everything just for like conversation purpose and everything, and like get upset when like I just stop talking or I like walk away. Like, yeah, okay, I'm done here. Like one time it was like Super Bowl, like I think the Super Bowl, Katy Perry performed, and she was texting me. Now they had like a Super Bowl party at her place. I wasn't invited for whatever reason, but whatever. I was sitting in my apartment. by myself playing video games, it was all right night for me and shit like that because I don't like football no way. But then
Right.
she hit me up. She's like, "Oh, are you watching the halftime show?" I was like, "Nah." She's like, "You should check it out." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So it was Katy Perry. She's got like I think at that time she maybe had like 3 or 4 songs that I kind of liked and everything. So she asked like, "Oh, how was it?" I was like, "It was fine." She was like, "Yeah, I think the best one though was Beyonce." So I just stopped responding and everything because I wasn't about to hold that conversation because it's like
Right.
I'd already established how I feel about it. So it's like she was upset that I didn't want to like discuss someone I said that I don't like already and everything. Like, oh, like I'm not a fan. I've never heard a song by her that I want to hear a second time.
Yeah.
So like I feel like along with that, like when people bait you into things, like if you're dealing with somebody like wants to bait you into situations that make you like, yeah, like because I say she baited a lot, and it's like that was one of her baits. Like even one time and everything, I said something about like Survivor based on like the Rocky movie, and she starts saying Survivor by Destiny's Child and everything. So I was like, "Yep, I'll see you later." Just walked away and shit. Like if I was any other woman, like no, it's not even any other woman sort of thing. It's like it's like, hey, but like any woman that give a damn about me will respect. Like it's like, hey, I said I don't like her, and it's okay for you to be a fan, but you're forcing me.
Swear to God, that baiting happens a lot more than we discussed. Like, I got two things when it comes to like when I date chicks. Don't call me nigga. Don't tell me fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear to God, one of my exes. This is after the relationship. She had said she had referred to me as an N-word, and I was like, oh, she's trying to like get under my skin. And another one of my exes, I gave her 3 chances. I told her, because she said fuck you twice, and I saw like, look, that third time I'm cutting this off, and she did it a third time, and I cut it off. I'm like, I don't put up with this shit. But like I could just tell like they're trying to bait me into like reactions. I don't play that. So another thing that I would say to avoid, I actually took notes on this for the first time ever. If a woman is disrespectful in public, if she disrespects you in public, you echoing.
My bad.
Yeah, if she disrespect you in public, that's a huge sign right there, because she knows that you're probably not going to do anything because of things like we saw earlier. She's probably not going to do anything. You're probably not going to do anything, so she's taking advantage of that. So, yeah, if she disrespects you in public, then it's probably a bad. So it's a sign of horrible things to come. Yeah.
Yeah, is she ungrateful? Like that's definitely like a huge thing. Like just someone that's like ungrateful. Like that's things like, hey, you show them like nice, like do nice things for them and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, like, oh well, you didn't do this well enough. Like for example, so one time now, generally when I used to go to the movies, like I go and I pay in person sort of thing. Like that's them body tickets there and stuff like that. So like Star Theater had like this new thing up where they had like some nice ass seats. So it's like you could buy them like online and everything, choose where you sit. So me, I'm technologically savvy on certain days. I have like Johnny Bravo intelligence, where it's like some days I'm smart, but some days I can't even read. So under those circumstances, I accidentally got them like in the front row of the theater or something like that. So we get to the movie theater now. We'd already bought snacks and stuff like that. We got there and everything and found out our seats were in the front. And like she got upset and threw like the food away. And I'm just like, we could have still watched this and everything. Like, I don't want to sit in the front. Like,
yeah.
Oh, how about I just take you home and everything? It's like I was the bad guy for saying like, how about I just take you home and everything? Like those things like starts throwing a fit and everything. Like, duh, like that's my money. She's like, yeah, you could buy more. I'm like, no, that's like my money. Like literally, like you wasted popcorn, nachos, a drink, and other shit like that. That's like $75 right there.
Yeah,
slight exaggeration, but still.
No, I mean, it's the movies. You probably lowballing it for the movies.
Yeah, you're right.
But no, I mean that's real, man. That ungratefulness is enough to like, and these are just signs like you got to pick up on, but you kind of learn over time. I wish I had recognized it when I was younger, but like it's just kind of hard to notice that stuff because I mean, when you're young, you kind of have that you kind of have hope for the world. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you optimistic, like, oh, it's not that bad. But
if I would have got with her at like 16, 17, like in high school or something like that, I have a completely different outlook on life. And it'd probably be like a way better situation. So I'd be like, yeah, it's like, oh, like, hey, you feel like this? We could be friends at best. But like, yeah, since that was like, I don't know, like first real relationship sort of thing, it was just like, oh, well, I hear relationships are hard, so you have to work through them. And it's like, that's what's shitty about, like, I don't know, like a lot of dudes that like aren't getting like chose and shit like that. Like they get to a certain point and everything where it's like, yeah, it's like, hey, I'm not getting chose, and they finally get chose. So like they try and do everything to make shit work.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is they don't have like the experience and the knowledge to go with it and everything. So they be out here like simping their asses off and everything. I'm not gonna lie, I get it and everything. We made mistakes and shit like that. It's like, oh, like, hey,
yeah, we all simp a little bit.
Yeah. So like that being said and everything, that's why I've always been like, yeah, it's like, hey, if she don't like you, she just don't like you. Like,
yeah,
that's it. Like you could do the bare, like a guy could do the bare minimum for somebody that likes them. Like that's there are definitely like women where it's like I've like done like way more for them than dudes they've chosen over me, and I'm like, oh well, I mean, if that's the dude you want, I guess I can't compete. Even though like yeah, you crying about this dude now and everything, but like hey, he got your eyebrows done, so that like undid like this entire horrible day of like hella money he forced out of you and shit like that, and just like doing you dirt and shit. But I mean, can't do nothing about that. So
yeah. Well, all right, man. You got anything else? About to wrap up in a hot second.
Oh man, you've been on here like 5 hours, dog. Go ahead and get you some rest. I know you got to work in the morning. Like,
yeah, I got. But see, the thing is, the kids ain't coming to school, but I still got to show up to the building. So go figure.
Oh wow, this week is fuck. Like, no, I understand.
Well, yeah. They doing finals. It's finals time. We're not putting any new work in, so the kids just opted not to come to school for the last 2 weeks. So they're doing all their finals at home, and but I still got to do grades and shit. It's a.
I do something whack, but like, yeah, it's like, hey, y'all got presentations to do in person. Be here.
Hey, real talk. They should have told us to do that, but you know, their biggest focus is making sure the kids pass because you know, COVID shit just messed a lot of stuff up. But all right, dude, I appreciate you for coming on.
No problem, man. No problem. Appreciate doing it.
Much love, and I'll holler at you later.
All right, man. Later.
Yep. All right, that was Kel. This was very long. I just added that. That was Kel. That was his experience. About to get off. So, like I said earlier, at Waffle Talk Ronnie on YouTube. I changed the name. When it comes to abuse for men, it happens. I learned a lot today, a lot that really frustrated me. As I've been on this journey of learning about men's issues and the things that we go through, the things that people don't talk about, it becomes very frustrating. Your eyes kind of open to the world. This is not anything against women. I mean, there are certain women that do these things. I would just hope that for the women who feel as though this isn't them to really take a deep dive and ask themselves, like, what parts of you do these? It may not be as extreme as, you know, baiting somebody into hitting you, but it may just be, you know, baiting somebody into a little argument, is being you know, those sort of things. So as far as guys go, I really just want guys to be kind of aware and to recognize the signs when they present themselves, so we don't end up in these situations, because women do kill their husbands. You know, sometimes it's not a bullet. Sometimes they're putting laundry detergent in your food. You know, and you got to sit there and, you know, and you're dying slowly. So, guys, just pay attention and make sure everything's good, and make sure you take care of yourself. I got nothing else tonight. Again, at Waffle Talk Ronnie on YouTube. It should pop up first. Like, share, subscribe, donate to the channel. Cashapp and everything is going down on the bottom screen there. The Instagram page is there. Follow me on YouTube, Facebook. Go to the Facebook group Waffle Talk. And we'll carry on discussions there where we talk about men's issues. Not quite sure what next week's episode is going to be. Lately, I've been kind of flying by the handle to, like, you know, I have a list of things, but usually it's something at the moment that kind of catches my eye. Do some research and we'll discuss. Much love to everybody who contributed on the comments. Much love to Kel, who always Look, you'll see me wiping my eyes. It's a little past my bedtime. Much love to Kel, as he always watches, contributes, fucks with me on the channel. And I got nothing else for you. So without further ado, I guess I'll bid you adieu. So peace.